Hello, my fellow hunters. This is Andy, the RPG Relic Hunter, and I have just the silliest book. Well, when I got it, I thought it was silly. Naughty and Dice, an adult gamer's guide to sexual situations. And just so you know, it's just a cleavage shot, right? So she's covered up. Anyway, I got this because I thought it was funny, and it's written by two gamer guys. This Christian and Tim Morgan, who one of them owns a game store, and they wrote this book. But it has a lot more depth than I was thinking. Like when you see jokes on the cover like putting the R in RPG. It's more like making the G gonorrhea for your bard. It was kind of a fun read. So I think they must have started it as a joke because they've got like flaws and edges and things like that based on sexual preference or what you're into. Then they go into defining different things like, if you want to make your character for instance, a peeping Tom. There's a peeping Tom thing in here. And they have all sorts of interesting, like, okay, what would different cultures or games think about different sexual crimes? What were sexual crimes like in history? And reading through it made me really realize that sexuality is something we downplay in role-playing games pretty often. As, oh, it's cringe, or, now your neckbeard bard is gonna hit on every female NPC that comes along. However, sexuality drives a lot of human behavior. So I was thinking about, like, for instance, in the Bible, you've got King David, and he sees the woman bathing on the roof, which I assume she was trying to get his attention, and he sleeps with her, gets her pregnant, calls back her husband from war to say, hey, as a reward, why don't you spend the night in town? You've done such a good job. But he's honorable, so he stays in the guardhouse and doesn't see his wife since his unit hasn't been home. And so instead, King David has to switch his idea and kill him and then marry her so that it doesn't look like he, to cover up his cheating, even though he has a ton of wives, but be that as it may. You got the story of the Trojan War, which is this epic that just starts with Paris, and he's in love with Helen, and this massive battle. I might do a video talking more about that, but if you think about how often you think about sex, and how much of your life, is defined by that, either your goal of finding a spouse or, just getting laid or whatever. And then think about how much you think about that with your character. It's a lot less, We tell stories that don't involve a lot of sexuality because it's kind of out of style, but some of the best stories around were that. One of my favorite magic items in this, by the way, is the alcohol of attractiveness, which does what alcohol does, makes other people that you're normally attracted to seem more attractive, which I thought was funny, like actual beer goggles. Anyway, this book, it hits that line for me where it kind of bops back and forth between serious discussion about sexuality and funny gags. So I liked it. I liked reading it. I mean, there's some, poorly drawn butts and boobs, but that's just, what you would expect out of a book from, I think this is from the 90s. Let's just double check. It is from 2003. Okay, 2003. So anyway, that is my Naughty and Dice book. That even though it could be a little embarrassing, I proudly have it on my shelf as just because of the amount of work that the authors put into it. So there you go. There's one of my Relic Hunter treasures, enjoy your games. Don't inject sexuality into a game that you haven't had a conversation with your players about. And remember to play like the dice are trying to kill you, because they are.